Hi everyone, my name is Celia Strickland and I'm the owner of Sweets from the Soul. Today we're going to be doing some cookies made with fondant. I've seen sets of cookies at weddings that look so elegant, and I wonder how in the world they get such texture incorporated in their coverings on their cookies. But it's fondant. We're going to be using some of the embossers and debossers that we have on our website, as well as some of the stencils that you may already have at home. So I hope you'll enjoy our tutorial and thank you for joining me. We're also going to be using some fondant embossers. These embossers have a raised edge so that when you push them into the dough, it leaves the print behind. And I used a wide assortment of the fondant molds that we have in our store. These are silicone molds. This is the baby set here, and the teddy bear set, as well as the bow set. Love them. So let's get started. This is a baby set. Could be great for a baby shower or a reveal party. And we're going to be using several of our embossers and silicone molds. The first thing you want to do is make your fondant. There's a great video on our website on how to make fondant. Once you have the fondant made, you have to put it in the refrigerator and let the gelatin set up for at least 4 hours, if not overnight. Once you take this fondant out, you want to condition that fondant by working in a little bit of powdered sugar, being careful only to add a small amount at this stage. I knead the fondant over and over again until I have a soft, pliable base to work with. Then I divide it into parts and start to mix my colors. I'm having a pink palette with this set, and so I start with just a tiny bit to get that medium shade of pink that I want to begin with. I simply put the coloring in the middle of the fondant and turn it into itself over and over until it is thoroughly mixed. Now I want to take some and make a darker color by adding more of the pink into my fondant and kneading until it's well mixed. So now I have two shades of my pink that I want to work with, but I also want to have a lighter shade of pink. So I take a little bit more of that the medium shade and add more white to it to have a gradient of colors. Next, I want to prepare my surface, so I take some cornstarch or powdered sugar and powder my surface. I also want to powder the fondant rolling pin so that it doesn't stick. You can see here that I'm having a little bit of trouble with it sticking, so I do put a little bit more of powdered sugar on the rolling pin so it doesn't stick. I continue to turn the fondant as I roll it out so that when I'm ready to pick it up, it's not stuck to the surface. Now I push my embosser into the fondant. I take my rolling pin and I push it in so that I get a good raised edge. And this is my old baby fondant debosser, excuse me. And then I take the same cookie cutter that I used to cut out the cookies with to cut out my fondant topper. Next, I want to make sure that I have it off of my surface and ready to go. But before applying it to the cookie, I take my edible glue, which is made up of, I make mine up of water with apricot glaze. That apricot jelly or jam that I put in there, it just makes it a little bit more sweeter and gives it a better taste. But it's a neutral taste, so it doesn't compete with the vanilla in my cookies or fondant. I simply put the fondant topper on my cookie, clean up the edges, and I'm done. Just that quick. It's really a super easy way to decorate cookies, and you could even go ahead and put this in your bags and bag them up and you're done. But I want to add a sweet little bow to this cookie. I'm using the bow fondant silicone molds. So I simply press in the fondant, cut off the top, and with these molds it just pops right out. Now if your fondant dough is a little bit wetter, you might need to continue to condition a little bit more so that it will come out of the molds easier. You'll want to use a drier fondant for the Debossers, Embossers, and the silicone molds. Those seem to work the best. I clean up the edges with a stylus and I'm done. Next, our next cookie is a heart-shaped cookie. This again is going to be covered with a fondant overlay. I simply roll out the fondant, making sure to turn it every time so that it does not stick to the bottom of my surface and that it's ready to go once I have the embossing done. Again, I'm going to use an embossing tool. This one pushes into the clay to leave an indentation into the clay. This is our tropical flower embossing tool, excuse me. Once I get my perfect shape, I line up my cutter and I cut out the heart. You want to make sure that you're picking out the most interesting part of the design to cut around. I go ahead and cover my heart cookie again with our edible glue and simply apply the fondant topper. It's very forgiving. If you don't get it quite in place, you can pick it up and move it around again. You can stretch a little bit on the edges. I wouldn't do too much because you're going to ruin your design. And then it's ready to be topped with whatever silicone mold you want to use to make a fondant accent. I'm going to use the heart mold on this one. I think this is probably my favorite flower silicone mold because it does just make a beautiful print. I'm using our darker fondant to go in. I'm just simply pressing it in, and then I take my knife and push and cut off the top and then just pop it out. Now I usually let mine remain soft. I don't like to let my fondant accents dry out. So it's up to you. I usually let the roses dry a little bit before I package them, but I like to have a soft accent on my cookies. Next up, we have another cookie that's covered in a fondant overlay, and we're going to add a teddy bear from our teddy bear mold. I'm using a lighter fondant here, same process, just pushing the fondant dough into the mold and then cutting off the top. These really are great molds. They just pop right out. It's really not hard at all, and if it is, you just start over again. It's not anything too terribly tricky. You'll want to attach your embellishment with some edible glue. And you can take your stylus or your knife or just even your handle and push it down a little bit. And there's another cookie finished up very quickly. Our next cookie is going to be a cookie stick. I add cookie sticks to every set that I do. I just think that they're a great and easy addition to make for any set. I'm just rolling out my fondant dough, and I'm going to use the same cookie stick cutter that I used to make our cookies with. But first I want to do some embossing on it. This cookie embosser is 4 inches wide, and our cookie sticks are 4 1/4 inch wide. So I just turn it on a diagonal and it does perfectly fine. Then I cut out my fondant, just pulling away all the excess and putting that back in a cover because it does dry out if you leave it out. And then I use my knife to take it off the surface and get it ready for our cookie stick. I've already covered this stick with edible glue, so I just simply take and maneuver it onto the cookie and clean up the edges. It's that quick. Now I want to put something on top of this cookie, so I'm going to use some of the accents that I made earlier. This is the rattle from the baby set. I made this by putting a little piece of yellow in for the bow first, and then putting the white on top of it to make the rest of the rattle. We have our little yellow duck and our baby booty. And that finishes up our baby set. This would be great for any baby shower and you would be real pleased to take it. We have a full page of fondant and icing tools on our website, sweetsfromthesoul.com. We have silicone molds as well as the embossers and debossers, and I'm adding more to our shop each week. So come back and see us soon and take a look at all the things that we have to offer at sweetsfromthesoul.com. Thank you for watching. For the fondant recipe and all of these supplies, you can find it all in our blogs and on our website at sweetsfromthesoul.com. Have a great day.